Thanks for checking us out. Make sure you hit the subscribe button before we get started here.
One, two, three, two, two, three.
All right, today we've got in honor of Dark Side of the Moon's 50th anniversary, which was this past week, Money by Pink Floyd and All About the Benjamins by Puff Daddy, etc., 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 etc. I think it says and the family, really, but there's, obviously, as you know, like several.
Puff Daddy and the family, yes.
Yes. It's two interesting perspectives on Money.
I don't think there's a song that encompasses an era in hip hop maybe as well as All About the Benjamins does.
That's one of my first notes is that song was everywhere. I remember it being everywhere.
Okay, so when I'm telling you like one of the greatest rap songs ever, this song is in that conversation.
Is it really?
If it's not, it needs to be, because it has all the things that you want in an all-time great single, actually. Very low key. I think a lot of the feeling around the song, of course, is centered around the main character, actually, which is Puff.
Right.
And I think I think people feel some way about Puff sometimes.
Yeah.
And so because of the feelings, like, Puff is one of those people, he very much is in the Kanye realm in terms of like, well, he elicits a lot of responses depending on how you feel.
He's a strong emotion dude. Yep.
Yeah, he elicits a lot of strong emotions. But I mean, Andrew, there is no denying that this record is fire.
Yeah. No, he's a great producer. Like, he's a great, like.
I believe, matter of fact, I'm going to see, I believe D-Dot did this beat. But I mean, just first of all, the beat, when you hear the beat, it's just like,
it's one of those things, like, even I know instantly. I'm going to tell you a story, actually. I've been driving around playing these two songs with most of the time when I'm picking up kids in the afternoon, I'm picking up my smallest daughter, who's almost 2. And we played Money, and she was kind of blah, 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 talking in the backseat or whatever. And that beat came on, and she did the 2-year-old version of, oh, like, she's like, yeah, like and it's one of those things, like, I hadn't heard this song before I started preparing for this in years, probably. But when the dun dun like that comes on, like, it's one of those things I recognize immediately.
It's it is D-Dot. Yep, D-Dot produced this. So Puff had a team of producers called the Hitmen.
Okay.
And essentially the Hitmen consisted of early on Chucky Thompson and Easy Mo B. And that evolved, I believe, into Derek D-Dot, Nasheem Myrick, Stevie J.
Okay.
I feel like I'm missing somebody from the Hitmen, but this is D-Dot. D-Dot made a lot of Biggie's bangers on Life After Death.
Okay.
But then again, they all made a lot of Biggie's bangers on Life After Death.
There were a lot of bangers, yes.
Life After Death is full of those. But this beat is amazing. And this is what I mean. It's classic Puff. Well, the end is like a Jackson 5 sample.
Right. Where the guitar comes in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, well, no, he's staying true to his formula. He's taking something old that you're slightly familiar with. And he has talented producers that can flip the riffs and the beat breaks and the samples and make them into something new. But listen to what I'm saying. This is lyrically one of the best posse cuts ever. That's what I mean when it has some of everything. It's not just that the beat is amazing, and that beat is amazing. Like, I mean, this is made for stadium flow.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Like for me, being 16 when this came out, I really didn't even understand what stadium flow was until All About the Benjamins became a thing. I'm like, oh, this is meant to be performed. This is
big.
Yeah. Big. Doing it big with Big on the record.
Yep. And closing it out.
Yeah. So, trust me, we're going to get to the close, because part of what makes this one of the greatest rap songs ever is the mic performances by Lil Kim and by Biggie at the end, which is just like, it's like watching your 2 best gymnasts literally go get 10s like back to back.
Wow. Nice. And I want you to talk more about that, like, because.
No, I want to. The first thing I want to get to something is that Well, Jadakiss has just revealed something very, very telling about this song. He wrote Puff's verse. That's
Oh, he
something.
did.
Yeah, Jadakiss wrote the verse to All About the Benjamins for Puff. And so a lot of people in the hip hop community, Jadakiss sometimes when he's the critique on Jadakiss would be is that, well, he doesn't really have those bangers or hit singles or records or albums
This is a banger.
well, if he wrote Puff's verse to this,
Yeah.
and you
One
got
of my questions. Go ahead. Sorry.
well, he's just contributed in so many ways to a lot of Puff's bigger hits, this being the biggest of them. Like, this is the biggest record on an album full of big records. This is bigger than the song he did with Mace and Big, like separately on here. This is the record. And, the fact that Jadakiss wrote, listen, not the best part, because it's technically still the third best verse on there, probably, but he wrote the most notarized parts because what y'all want to do, want to be ballers, shot callers, brawlers. Everybody knows that.
Like even I know that. Like even that's one of those things that's immediately like came back, and I've been walking around my house singing that the last 3 days. Like it's
it's hard not to sing it. It's infectious. Part of being a great MC is writing stuff that people can say.
Yep.
It doesn't. I mean,
and there's lines like that all through this song too. We'll get to that later, but like, yeah, I just want to acknowledge that like all of the verses have.
Well, doing this show with you is what has made me realize more than anything else how important it is for people to be able to, quite frankly, sing the fuck along in a happy way. It's important. It's something that sometimes in hip hop we try to backlash or critique or come down upon. It's like, no. Looking back on it now that it's 2023 and that beat drops, I used to wait for Lil Kim, big part because it's my favorite part. But no, I'm a little bit older now. My sensibility's a little bit more worldly now. And it's like, no, I'm singing Puff's part like everybody else when it comes on because it's catchy. It sounds good. It feels good. It makes you turn up. And so, so I just wanted to bring in the fact that like Jadakiss had an integral part in this record.
Right.
Most memorable line.
I didn't know when I was first preparing this that he was the one who did the second verse. And I watched the video, and obviously he doesn't look a ton different, but he looks different, 25 years ago than he does now. And I was like, is that kid? One of the things I was the proudest of when listening to this back, because I didn't remember, obviously I recognized Kim and Big at the end, but I heard like at the beginning is that Missy really? And her voice is on there, right?
I believe so, but I'm not.
Yeah, it says when I looked up the lyrics, it said Missy and like doing it just the 1-2 stuff at the very beginning,
right?
And I thought it was Kiss in the second verse, but I wasn't sure. I was going to ask you to make sure, but he has a very New York voice for sure.
Yes, one of the best rap voices ever, too. But here's the thing about it. So here's what you have to understand. Well, that means he wrote the first 2 verses on this song. It's only verses on this song. So Jadakiss deserves probably the lion's share of the credit for this record getting pulled off because he has the most contribution. 2/5 of the record is Jadakiss's writing.
Yep. And the first verse is good enough that I thought it might have been Big's. Like it's the flow is similar, the cadence is similar to what you'd hear in some of his bigger hits too. So I was like, did he do that? That's one of the things I was going to ask you. And so he's done that too.
Yeah, and he gave Puff the hotter verse. You know what I'm saying? Like his
lead off. Yep.
He gave him the lead off. Like, and Kiss is a notorious like song lead off like murderer. Like he gets on the record first and like bodies you. Like so he gave Puff like some of his best stuff. Like you can't just it's not to be understated at all. It needs to be like, stated and emphasized. That it's like no. 2 verses on All About the Benjamins. We can't say Kiss don't have no bangers. That's a banger. Because this is an arguable top 10 rap song ever to me.
Okay.
It's like I don't think it's touching Fight the Power or Dear Mama. But in terms of those anthem songs, like No. This combats an award tour by Tribe Called Quest, a Nothing But a G Thing, a California Love, a One More Chance remix by Big. No. It's like that.
It's in that area. Wow.
It's in that area of song. Just off the bar work, it's in that area of song. It's crazy. Like, it's one of those things when you start, it's one of those few rap records when you start thinking about the song, the beats start playing in your head. Like full. You just start, you're kind of like nodding to yourself when you think about it. You're like,
you can hear it. And that's actually a thing for both of these songs. Actually, they have two of the most recognizable riffs. We'll get to the one for Pink Floyd later, but like they have two of the most instantly recognizable riffs, intros in musical history, I think.
I think that's a great connection too, because I feel the same way. Because I was familiar with the riff before. It's like, oh, Pink Floyd Money. I'm like, what is that? Then I heard it. I was like, oh, I've heard this.
Oh yeah, that's why I figured you would your reaction. I didn't know if you would know it by the name, but then as soon as the bass line came on, you're like, oh okay.
Familiar with it. I just didn't know which song it was. But as soon as the riff dropped, I was like, oh yeah, that's that shit.
It is. It's a great song, and we'll get to that in a minute.
One of the other things about this record that needs to be kind of like recognized is that the Lox is a trio, but Styles is not on this record. Styles is considered to be like the real street one of a street crew, and just
now, who are the members of the Lox?
Jadakiss, Styles, and Sheik.
Okay.
Jadakiss and Styles have We Gonna Make It. That's what you're probably familiar with. That Styles isn't on this record. But Styles is one of the greatest MCs of all time too. He's not a lot of people, especially like up top in New York, prefer Styles over Kiss because they feel like Styles has a better catalog.
Okay.
So so the only thing missing from this record is Styles. Yeah, which I don't think he wanted to be on because he's the one that probably enjoys the limelight the least.
I've heard people talk about how important Kim's verse is on here. Talk more about that. Like I have some thoughts too, but like I want to hear what somebody who actually knows what they're talking about has to say about it. And not some like BS in some YouTube comments, but like somebody who actually knows.
No, she just she leveled this song up, Andrew, quite frankly. Like her part leveled this song up. Her verse is where this goes from great record for the time. Like there's two types of classic in my opinion.
Okay.
There's classic for the time.
Right.
And there's when a classic becomes timeless.
Right.
Her part of this record, her contribution is where the record goes from current classic for the times to all-time classic. That's how masterful she is on there. Biggie after her is just icing on the cake. No. She's the reason that this record goes from here to there because she sets it off. And she's a star.
She is.
She's a star. So when she shows up, even as a dude, you're like, oh shit. Because first of all, Kim can rhyme.
Yes, you can. Yes, you
and
can.
Kim came up rhyming in a crew full of dudes. You know what I'm saying?
He even says that in her verse too.
Yeah. The Lox are not as big as Kim.
No.
And Puff is not as respected as an MC as Kim is. You get what I'm saying? So she's where the credibility and like everything changes in the record. It's like, oh shit. And then there's actual verse, which I mean, for me is one of her 5 best verses. And she's got a lot of great verses. For me, Lauren is a better MC, but I don't know if there is a female MC with more all-time great verses than Lil Kim. And that's why I take her like overall. Like I know Lauren's a better MC. I know there are women who are better MCs. Like Nicki might even bar for bar be a better MC. How about this? I don't even think Nicki has one verse as good as this verse as Kim got on All About the Benjamins. And I don't think this is necessarily Kim's best verse, though it might be.
Like I had not heard the song in years, and when I went back and listened to it, there were lines, the murder you know she wrote, like I mean like that. There are lines in there, and the but and the bzz at the beginning, like there are lines in there that I remembered from like 25 years ago because I hadn't.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Not only is she lyrically on point, but the most memorable lines of any verse on this song are courtesy of Lil Kim. The parts that you remember, the most famous part is Puff's intro, but the stuff stuff you consistently remember is Kim. Wanna rumble with the B, huh? Bzz, throw a hex on the whole family. Dressed in all black like the Omen. Have your friends singing, this is for my homies, and you know me. Oh, she's bananas on there.
Yeah,
like her flow and her swag on there, Andrew. When I mean it's all time great. It's all time great. Like very few people have sounded this good on a record this good. It's not a regular rap performance. If she was a dude, we would be talking about it like it was one of the frescoes on the Sistine Chapel.
Wow. Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the verse is like that.
And she did it on a song with 3 other really incredibly gifted, or at least 2 really other gifted.
I mean, Jadakiss and Biggie, and it's arguable. Like, first of all, her verse is better than most of the verses Jadakiss wrote. Yeah. The one he performed and the one that he gave Puff, her verse is better than both of those. And it's arguable if Biggie has a better verse. Like, I think technically Biggie has a better verse, technically, but overall, I think Lil Kim has the best verse on this song.
And in that group of people to have the best verse on the song, that's...
And it's like you said, if it's murder, you know she wrote it. German Ruger for your ass, bitch, deep-throated. Know you want to fill the room because it's platinum coated. Firearm, got an iron and you should have told it. Suck a dick. All that bullshit you kick, player hating from the sidelines. Get your own shit. Why you ride mine? If a dude was talking like this on this record, we would still be talking about it. You understand what I'm saying? Because she's actually talking the way a dude would talk on this record. He didn't approach it like a female.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She approached it with the menacing nature that like an aggressive MC from Brooklyn would, like a man would. And she sounds better.
Is she from Brooklyn too?
She's from Brooklyn.
Obviously she sounds like it.
So she's the moment on this album. It's like when you get to hear Big, it's just like, okay, that's when it's like, okay, this just went from all-time great rap song to like maybe top 10 rap song. That's where Big, it just keeps on leveling up. It's like it goes from classic for the time. You know what I'm saying? Then Kim comes in, it's like all-time classic. And then Big comes in and it's like, oh shit, it might be a top 10 record. You know?
And songs that build like that are rare.
Well, I was about to say it's the only rap record it's easy one of the 20 best rap records ever. It might be the only rap record in the top 20 that ascends like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like by the time you hear the first verse to Dear Mama, you're there.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Fight the Power. I mean, Fight the Powers, you're already there before Chuck starts talking. It's like when he starts,
and then he goes 1989 or Flavor.
Like he's got you at the first 3-4 bars. You know what I'm saying? Get down, sound of the funky drummer. You know that when he says that resonates with black people that don't even like hip hop. That's what I mean when Fight the Powers.
That's James Brown stuff, right? Yeah,
that's James Brown. That's Clyde Stubblefield. That's the funky drummer. That's what hip hop is based on. It resonates on so many levels in the first few bars. This might be the only record. Even they Reminisce Over You, like when the intro to the Reminisce Over You plays, and then the beat drops and they go, reminisce. It's like, oh shit! It gives you goosebumps. It gives you chill. You know it's about to go down. This record is like, oh, this is dope.
Yeah, this is like a party record, right? Like at the beginning.
Like, oh shit. Like, damn.
Yeah.
What? Hold on. The rest of the records that are like that, they kind of hit you like a Ward tour. No. When that beat drops and Q-Tip comes in, no, you're there. This isn't like that. This is like, oh, we're about to party. Then you're like, oh no, this is some of the best shit ever by the time it's done.
They're still partying, but they're also like slaying people too.
Yeah. And Biggie's in rare form, fuck the state pen, fuck hoes at Penn State.
Yeah. That's if we're while we're getting a brief like literary device sidebar here. That's called chiasmus, CHIASMUS, where you take the two parts of the thing and flip them, right? So where it's the state and the pen and state, like just taking those and flipping them. So that's what he's using, and it doesn't matter that you know what it's called, but I do want to point out that's like high level literary device shit going on.
Super high level. It's not even. It's that he's doing it. It's the ease at which he's doing it too. He's going, and because then after he does that, because that's choppy, because he's doing the chiasm, as you call it. Okay, so but then he just extends his flow. He goes, listen close, it's Francis, the praying mantis.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? His
Yeah.
whole tone and delivery changed. He went from boop boop to. It's like throwing 2 5-yard passes and then throwing a 20-yard pass. Like boop
Okay.
boop. You know, that's how his flow and his delivery is going. So it's not just the literary devices; it's the way he's morphing his words and his flow while using it. You know what I'm saying?
I'm learning. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like it ain't just what you say; it's how you say it. The way that he's saying this, you know what I'm saying? And then it's the fact that they just kind of gave him a different soundscape to kind of like go on. It's kind of like, oh no, it's big, so we got to make it a little bigger. You know what I'm saying?
The not what you say, but it's how you say it is another thing that where the two songs connect too, because the rhythm of the Pink Floyd song is also funky too. It's not a straight four on the floor kind of rock and roll song. It's not. It's got a different rhythm to it, and the way the lyrics fit with the guitar riff and it's really a bass riff in this song, is different than most songs too. And it's another one of those indicators of skill that you can make it work that way too. This show has also made me a lot more conscious about how not just the lyrics but how they're being put together. Like how, like you call it the flow, I guess, but like the way that they're arranged and the way they are attacking the beat and the way they fit together as part of a song.
Biggie arranges words maybe better than anybody in the history of rap. That's what makes his flow so sick. It's the words that he chooses to use, but how he pieces them together.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, Andrew, this is what I mean where Biggie fits. It's more, he writes it more the way a pop artist or a rock artist would write it, in terms of the simple sensibility of parsing the words together. Like, this is what I mean. Hold on. Because I want to make sure that I'm saying it right.
Sure.
I've been had skills, Cristal spills, hide bills in Brazil, about a mill, the ice grill. You see how simple. He's not using complicated words, actually.
He's also calling back to the Rio de Janeiro in the first verse too, like with the Brazil. Yeah.
Listen, attack with the Mac. My left hand spit, right hand grip on the whip for the smooth getaway. Player haters get away, or my lead will spray. Squeeze off till I'm empty. Don't tempt me. Only to hell I send thee.
That's some biblical shit, right?
But do you see how you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nobody.
But he's also taken the thee, like that's one of those super cool things, because he's taken like some Brooklyn talk, to be fair, like in this there, and he's throwing some like King James shit at the end of it. Like to be able to do both is like an otherworldly amount of talent.
That's what I mean. He puts it together. It's like he does it so consistently that you forget to marvel at it. Like even on, used to call me fat, so now you call me Castro. You know?
Yep.
I went from ashy to classy.
I love that. That's one of my favorite rhymes. Like that's one of my favorite things that he does.
Right. Yeah. Like he uses words and puts them in a way where it's like, oh, that's fly.
Yeah, but you've never heard people arrange things like that before. Right. And like ashy and classy don't rhyme, obviously, like in the like poetic sense, but the a does, right? The a-e, right? Like those sounds do. But I mean, they call it slant rhyme. That's like the pedantic literary term for it. But it's he makes you, and one of the geniuses of this is that he makes you hear things there that you didn't hear there before. That's what I'm saying. It's the voice, and it's the voice that helps him pull these things off. Like, who shot you? Separate the weak from the obsolete. Hard to creep Brooklyn streets. It's like, ain't nobody doing that. Like, period. Like, when he rapped, that was 93, 94. Nobody had rapped like that before. I don't think people understand that. Nobody talked like that before. So, like, his talk game is, like, just beyond special.
And so, and this is him in his prime, like at his peak. But him at his peak, you have to understand, he doesn't have to be lyrical, like in the traditional sense, to deliver the goods. It's his word.
He can be, but he doesn't have to be.
No, he can be. Like, this isn't one of his more lyrical verses. Like, if you go to the Life After Death, it's like this wouldn't even be one of the 5 best verses on Life After Death. Maybe not even 10. Maybe not even 15.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that it's put together, the way that he puts it together, he's very, very infectious. You know, when he says, "Oh, to hell I send thee," it's like that's evil genius at its finest. Only to hell I send thee. It's like, oh, now he's talking like God, like literally, like King James version style of writing.
Yep.
It was just Brooklyn. It was just fucking hoes at Penn State 4 bars before.
I was gonna say it was just that, right? Yeah,
just that. You know, he was just rocking Redman and Naughty. You get what I'm saying? His ability to be versatile and just seamlessly transition, it just wraps the record up. It's like, okay, this record done. It's record missing.
And they've essentially just like fade out after that, right? I mean, there's not a whole lot of outro to it.
There's nothing else to do but be like, it's all about the Benjamin. It's like, yeah, it's all about the Benjamins, right?
The end. Yep.
Insane. Yeah. So, one of the best rap records ever. If you told me it was in the top 10, it might not make my top 10 at the end of the day, but it's definitely, I mean, when a record like this makes you think of like Cream.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the same thematically as Cream too, right? I mean, or more or less. I mean,
this would be the shiny version of Cream.
Right.
Like, of course, like, and as great as everything that I just said about these guys are, I mean, just lyrically and just, you want to talk about some literary devices.
No, I mean, clearly it's not on Wu-Tang's. Like, it's not that, but.
Not Cream. That's what I mean. So it's like, you know, for me, Cream is definitely a top 5 rap song of all time. Mm-hmm. Like, definitely. And so All About the Benjamins would probably fall closer in my 10 to 15 range. But if it made your top 10, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm more partial to Fight the Power, Children's Story.
Right.
Cream, they reminisce over.
But it's a song that it wouldn't be like stupid to make the argument about, right?
Yeah, argument. Like, just like I'll Be There For You, One More Chance remix, award tour, they reminisce. These are all legit arguments.
Right.
Me, Myself, and I, shout out to De La.
Mm-hmm. We'll have to talk about that song. Oh, that's as a sidebar. That's one that I enjoy, but I don't get in the same way as a lot of the other ones. Like, I mean, I like it, but it doesn't like jump off the page to me in the same kind of way. So I do want to talk this is not a De La episode, but no disrespect to them. It's just one of those things that like I've learned enough from you to learn like why some of these songs are great, like the ways in which they are great. And I don't hear that as much on Me, Myself, and I. Or didn't the last time I listened to it anyway. So no disrespect. It's just my ear is not refined enough to hear it yet.
No, I think that's the thing with De La and why we need to talk about it and people need to be acquainted with it. Because here's what I would also submit to you. First of all, if people played their shit the way that they were supposed to be playing their shit when they were actually out making it, it would be different. Mm-hmm. But I can't stress this enough. Not being able to hear it for the time that we haven't been able to hear it till now. No, it's affected all of that.
Yeah.
It hasn't had the chance to stay with you and grow on you and linger. I can pull up Children's Story whenever the fuck I feel like it.
Yep.
I can pull up Award Tour whenever I feel like it. I can pull up Fight the Power whenever I feel like it. You haven't even been able to pull it up to enjoy it. And so I think even though it'd probably be on the back end of like my top 2025, no, I would probably put it in there because it's like, it is one of the best records from the era. And it's the one record from the era that's like all-time great that hasn't gotten a chance to be all-time great.
Okay. I look forward to getting to talk about it because I want to learn. That's one of the ones that I want to learn about. Like I don't because I want to be able to hear what people who know what they're talking about hear, I guess. And that because I mean that's why we're doing the show, right? Because I mean the initial idea of the show was teach me about hip hop, right? Like that's where my idea started, and then we obviously morphed it to where we are now. But
yeah. I mean, I think that's where the origin of it. I mean, I was coming from a place of wanting to learn and understand some things too. You know, like there are a lot of songs and records to me that it's like, well, I didn't understand why they were big the way that they were And so you've explained some things to me. And so, it's given me an opportunity to grow too. Can I tell you a quick sidebar story about what happened at work? So I guess the old general manager has the passwords to our Pandora music station that plays over the system, over the PA. The password is expired, so it's been deleting all of the old files. And so our bosses have been having to create a new playlist every day. Now, somebody, Andrew, created an NWA playlist. And I don't know how, because quite frankly, everybody in that office is white.
Yeah.
But the NWA transcends some things. And so we're opening for business, and Straight Outta Compton is playing. I'm not joking. This just happened yesterday. Me and my guy Scott are looking at each other like,
did you do that? Wasn't me. I'm
looking like I'm totally okay right now. But I'm like,
some of these other people coming in here might not be.
Then EZE's Real Motherfucking G starts playing.
Yeah.
I look over to my boss and I'm like,
make it.
And she's looking at me like, what, Armand? And I'm like, and she listens, and you should see the mortified look that like went over her face. She was just like, it's not to be funny, it's a room full of white people all
right. And it's a high class restaurant and whatever. Not that that's not high class music, but it's not what these people are expecting to listen to when they.
And I'm not joking, but here's where Mirror Music is coming and saving the day. She went back and changed station. I don't know to what, but literally after one song, it reverted right back to NWA again. And so now something off of Niggas for Life is playing, Andrew. At that point, I'm leaving my post because it's like, no.
We'll fix this.
Well, you can play some of the stuff on Straight Outta Compton.
Yeah. You can get away with some of it.
Yeah, Niggas for Life is not. It's not. I don't play Niggas for Life around my daughter. I've never played that album around my daughter. So imagine this room full. I'm like, we're
not doing this.
So I ran to the back and I ran into the office, and she's just red and she's freaking out and she doesn't know how this happening. I said, forget all of this. I said, I grabbed the thing. I put in Rolling Stones radio. Guess what the first song that popped up was?
Can't always get what you want. Yep.
You can't always get what you want. I go outside. About 30 minutes go by. Whole fucking building is damn near singing and humming along. One of the servers walking by singing the songs. He's like, we're jamming today. I was like, Rolling Stones radio. He's like, you picked this, Armand? I was like, I sure did. He's like, this is the move. He's like, we need to be playing stuff like this in here all the time.
No, Stones is good stuff, man.
And I was thinking to myself, well, the Stones is good stuff. And, me delving more into with you is what made me go to them in our time of need. So
yeah, exactly. It's a thing that everybody likes, right?
It works in real time. No. But what we're doing, remember when we were talking about connecting and bringing things together and understanding? Like, no, that happened at work yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you were talking at the beginning of this episode too about needing to have songs that people sing along to, right? And you saw that in real time too.
Yeah. No, because like I'm walking by now, motherfuckers are humming and it's like I know the words too, so it's like I'm humming too, and now we're all happy and we're all together, and that's what good music does. It's supposed to do, which is why we started doing this. So yesterday at work was just not the micro, but the macro of what we're doing.
I mean, the genesis of the idea was this is the Dark Side of the Moon's 50th anniversary by Pink Floyd. And so I said, Money is probably the most, maybe not the best song on the record, but certainly the most famous of them.
The most popular.
And obviously there's lots of songs about money in hip hop culture. So I asked you to pick one, but it's interesting. It's fun to talk through this because there are a lot more points of comparison than I thought there were, other than these are both songs about money. But they are, but it's more than that too. There's tons of things to talk about Floyd and
right. Okay, so let's start. Okay, where are they from?
They're a British band. I don't know what city, but they're
London-ish area, probably.
I'll look it up, so I'm not getting assaulted by all the Pink Floyd fans. The fans of Pink Floyd are not quite as psychotic obsessive. Formed in London in 1965. Good ear, Coop. The quite as psychotic as obsessed as Rush and Yes and those other prog rock people, but they're pretty intense about it too. So I want to make sure I'm getting my facts right.
Right. So 65
is when they made when they got together as a group. Not in their current, definitely not in their current, but not in the version that played on Dark Side of the Moon either. It's a different group, or different musician anyway.
Who were they before Dark Side of the Moon?
Do you know the name Syd Barrett? Have you heard that name before?
It's vaguely familiar.
Okay. He was the original guitarist and songwriter, really, of a lot of Pink Floyd stuff before this record. This record happened about at the same time. I don't know what his mental illness was, schizophrenia, I think. But he had a mental breakdown. Is part schizophrenia and partly tripping too much acid. But just like melted his brain. So he had to leave the band. And it wasn't like a fuck you, get out of the band. It was just like he just can't deal with this. So he was institutionalized, and not in like a psychiatric hospital kind of thing, but like you need somebody to take care of you kind of way, from basically the time this record came out, 1973, until he died. He lived like 30 or 40 more years. He died of pancreatic cancer in like 2005, 6-ish. He just wasn't there really anymore. I mean, like he was a shell of whatever. They originally brought on David Gilmour, who's the guy who plays guitar and sings on the song. He is the one. They brought him on as Syd Barrett was. I don't use the phrase descending into madness lightly, but as he was having that, because he would just stand on the stage and play one chord the whole time and not really, and kind of be zoned out or whatever. So they brought Gilmour in originally to play the guitar parts and that kind of thing. And he took the place, sort of, or by took the place, I mean singing and playing guitar of Syd Barrett at that time. And Roger Waters is the guy playing that bass line. He was the band leader, I guess, kind of.
I know who he is too.
Yeah. I mean, he left. I feel like the two of them, Waters and Gilmour, still don't get along right now. Roger Waters left the band in like 1985, and they've argued for years about who gets to play using the Pink Floyd name, and it's all been a whole thing.
So they broke up after The Wall, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Wall's, as you know, I know, but it was like early 80s. For those of you who don't know, that's another brick in the wall part 2. We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's The Wall.
Okay, let me ask you something. Is The Dark Side of the Moon considered to be their best work, or is it The Wall?
It's certainly their most famous work. The Wall is a rock opera kind of thing too. There's a story there. Yeah. The Dark Side of the Moon is by far their most famous. The people, like, I have 2 older cousins, both girls, who are, well, they're not girls, they're women now. They're like 6, 7, 8 years older than me. They're huge Pink Floyd fans. So I asked them a little bit about this, just because they obviously know more than I do.
Well, I want to go ahead.
But she says, or one of them said, "Wish You Were Here," which is the album that comes after this, is actually their best, or her favorite anyway. But Dark Side of the Moon is like stayed on the Billboard charts for like 20 or 30 years. I mean, a long time. I saw on Wikipedia says it's the 3rd highest selling album worldwide of all time.
You know, like I said, as soon as this dropped, I knew what it was. Even what this song is and what this album is in popular culture is an example, Andrew, of what I want for hip hop artists to receive. Because here's the reality of the matter. To this day in my life, I've not heard Dark Side of the Moon from beginning to end. I'm familiar with about 5 of the records on there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not like I haven't heard this stuff.
Yeah.
But I've heard Money in movies and TV commercials my whole damn life.
Yeah.
That fucking album cover is one of the most iconic album covers ever.
Yeah. For those of you, I mean, I'll put a picture of it up on the screen now too, but for those of you, I can't imagine anybody listening to the show wouldn't know what the Dark Side of the Moon cover looks like, but it's a triangle on a black background with the rainbow coming out the side, like a prism, right? That's, you would obviously, everybody would know it if they saw it.
And I say this like respectfully, and these are the things that used to upset me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because in popular white culture, whether it be British or American, motherfuckers know how to keep your legends alive and how to keep their legendary stuff alive. This is what I'm talking about. This album got released 50 years ago, but as soon as you sent me this, oh, Money, I was like, I know that. I've listened to this song my whole life. I go and look to see what the album cover of The Dark Side of the Moon. I'm like, I've been looking at kids we went to school with wearing that damn shirt. You might have had a shirt. Andrew.
I didn't, but yeah, there are lots of people wearing it.
I've been looking at that shirt since I was in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
Been looking at that album cover since I was in middle school.
Yep.
I've been listening to this song on TV, radio, and film since I was literally a child. And all I've ever really wanted, I stopped being mad and I started realizing that it's like, no, we have to start talking about hip hop legends and what they do in their turn. Like, I want somebody talking about Enter the Wu-Tang.
Mm-hmm.
Because Enter the Wu-Tang is 30 years old now.
Oh.
It'll be 30 years later this year that Enter the Wu-Tang got released. When it's time to talk about Enter the Wu-Tang, I want Dark Side of the Moon treatment for Wu-Tang Clan. Like they're Pink Floyd. That's all I really want. That's what I'm here for. Like, so when you wanted to do this with me, this is what I want for my community. It's like, see how they do and see how we need to do.
Yeah. It's not hard. Like, it's
that this album stayed on the charts for pretty much the majority of our lives.
Yeah, it stayed on there a long time.
Pretty much what you're saying is this album came out before we were born, but when we were born, this album was still selling.
Yep. Still is now. Like, still now it is.
That's all I want for my people, because I know we engage in commerce more heavily than anybody else.
I mean, and you've said this before, but they do it for Mike and they do it for Prince. Like we said, like, you could play Off the Wall in the club now, or you could play Thriller in the club now, and people would still be down. Like, it's relevant now. And like you said, you hear this song, the doom 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 doom.
We could go to Brooklyn right now. We could go to Compton. We could go to Detroit. We could go to Chicago. We could go to the hardest club. And if you played Rock With You by Michael Jackson, nobody would say a word if you just changed all.
They're all dancing.
Wouldn't change a thing. You get what I'm saying? So it's like we have the propensity to, and I just kind of I didn't want to sidebar too far, but I just want to say that because here's the thing about it too. This record dope as fuck and the music's there. And when the music is there, you support it.
Yep, exactly.
I love the rhythm to this shit. They're funky.
Yeah. And this is one of the one of the cool things about this is that Pink Floyd generally is a guitar band, as most prog rock, psychedelic rock kind of blues based things from the 70s are. But this is not a guitar based song. This is a bass based song. Like the bass line is what drives it forward. I looked it up because I knew it was like a weird time signature. It goes from 7/4 time to 4/4 time, which is why the riff feels a little off. Not bad off, but like it doesn't have like your disco boom 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 beat, right? It has it's doom 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 doom. Like there's like when you have 7/4 time, it's like missing a beat, right? So it it's like skipping a thing almost.
It's almost skipping a measure. Yeah, I guess musically the way to explain it, it's skipping a whole measure. Yeah. So it's kind of making you wait, but the timing is still perfect though.
It is perfect, but it's because it's obviously it's done intentionally, but it's it's off-putting, not off-putting. it unsettles you a little bit because it's not because the beats are not falling exactly where you expect. And
Right.
so, which kind of fits with what he's singing about too. And I mean, this is one of the first songs that has like the cash register, like that money's kind of sound in it. It's got all kinds of stuff that were not popular really before this too.
I'm about to say, I feel like this song popularized some things because it's how about this? It wasn't until we covered this, like, I thought this was an 80s song until like I did my research.
I can see that, yeah.
I thought that this damn near, I mean, I knew it wasn't off the wall, like the album by Pink. Like I knew it wasn't part of that album. And I was like, when I used to think that they maybe did something before or after that this was on, like, because I wasn't familiar. I was like, this is 1973.
Yeah, this is early for them. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is innovative on a level of it's catchy in a more innovative in a different way. Like the stuff that's catchy around this time is not being done like this. This is different. This is more challenging.
It is much more challenging, yeah.
So and they've always been, and then correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not super familiar with their music outside of the wall, but they're kind of like a genre and like boundary pushing band, aren't
yes,
they?
absolutely they are. Yeah. They're pushing in lots of different directions.
Totally.
There's like the psychedelic stuff, which comes from like Jefferson Airplane and that kind of stuff. They're pushing out into like straight blues. The guy David Gilmour, like the guitar, because there's a long guitar solo at the end of this. It sounds. I mean, he's a virtuoso guitarist in his own right, but like Jimmy Page, for example, Led Zeppelin's guitarist, is kind of a dirtier sound if his guitar is like kind of like feedbacking a little bit, right? This is super clean, which is more like Clapton in that kind of like pure blues kind of playing. He's got that going on in this, and the prog rock stuff, the progressive stuff, which is like Rush, which is the weird time signatures and the weird rhythms and all that kind of stuff going on too. So you have all of that kind of fusing together in a way that nobody else really did. A lot of people who are doing like prog rock kind of stuff, progressive rock, were not writing songs that you'd hear on the radio, really, or not much. And they have lots and lots of famous songs. Like if I list them off, you may not recognize them, not you, but like the people may not recognize them by their names. But if just like this song, like you hear them, you're like, oh yeah, I know that. Like the song "Wish You Were Here." If I brought my guitar in here and played that guitar riff, you'd be like, oh yeah.
No, I know about.
And like I want to be like clear what I'm saying. Like when I say you, most of the time I'm talking about like the audience, not like I know you know what it is, but and then Another Brick in the Wall. Most people know we don't need no education. Like that song is obviously one of those iconic songs too, that you would know. That's Floyd as well. No, it sounds 80s-ish because of the saxophone, I think. Like that, like the saxophone grinding in there.
Yes.
You hear that a lot in 80s music. I mean, it's probably, I don't know enough to know, but this is one of the first instances I know of it being that prominent in a song. And they brought a guy in to play it. He's not like a member of the band, but it's you hear it here, and then you start hearing it more consistently with Springsteen when Born to Run. You hear it in 10th Avenue Breakdown. You hear it in lots of Springsteen songs in the mid 70s. And then you start hearing it all over the place in the 80s. You hear it like in Excess. Need You Tonight has one of those kind of saxophone solos in it. Huey Lewis and the News has saxophone in it. Like there's tons of bands in the 80s that have that sax solo stuff going on. In a way, and Dave Matthews did too, right? I mean, that's not the 80s, that's on later now, but they're picking up on that tradition as well.
Okay. So it is innovative and influential. It's just earlier than I thought, actually. Now, who's singing?
That's David Gilmour singing.
That's David Gilmour singing? He's got an interesting voice.
Yeah, he does.
Like he's like, I was trying to think of hip hop wise who he would be vocally, because he's got a great voice, but it's a different voice. And it's something that's really hard to qualify how it's drawing you in. What about his voice draws you in? Because there's something that I think is kind of like alluring about his voice. I just don't quite know what it is. He doesn't have the traditional chops that some of the people who we cover have, correct?
No, but he's singing like a soul singer though. Like, I mean, he's got some runs in there. But
I'm not saying he can't sing.
no, but what I'm saying though is like he's singing soul style, but not like it's not soul like Otis Redding soul. Like it's not that kind of thing because it doesn't have. I guess it's like his guitar playing, right? It doesn't have like Jimmy Page. You hear that kind of a fuzz on it almost it's grungy, dirty sounding, right? Which fits with Zeppelin's music, which is also grungy and dirty, largely. You hear in like Robert Plant's voice kind of the rasp in it, right? The angst in it. You hear that rasp in like AC/DC. You hear that rasp in lots of the great black soul singers. You hear it in Marvin Gaye and Otis Redding, and like all of them, like they have that kind of that pain. Sam Cooke definitely. That pain in their voice, right? That honestly mostly probably comes from drinking too much and smoking, right? I mean, like it kind of tears up your vocal cords and then singing really loud. So it has that effect. And Gilmour doesn't have that. He's singing like the runs a little bit, but it's clean sounding. Like his guitar playing is clean sounding. Like there's no like distortion, I guess, on the guitar. It's very like pure sounding in a way that you don't see a lot before that, because if people are coming from like the blues tradition are playing guitars like Muddy Waters and B.B. King and those kind of things where they're playing the sound of their guitar is not as clean, I guess, until you have like Clapton, really, at least on the white side of things.
I was just kind of looking for some way to contextualize it because I couldn't find anything to really like vocally compare him to on the hip hop side or even with his contemporaries, so to speak.
He sounds different than on all of them.
Yes. Okay. So I was just making sure.
Also, like I primarily think of him as a guitarist, not a singer. Like
they're more looked at, like you said, like an acoustic and guitar band than a band that's known for their depth of lyrics and songwriting. They're more known for their musical chances, right?
Yeah, I mean the lyrics are
they're not bad.
They're not bad. They are. This one is one of their more direct lyrics, actually.
I mean, it's Pink Floyd. I mean, it's money,
but
pretty big record.
You think you're sounding a whole lot smarter than you are.
So I'm going to say this respectfully. It's like, well, they're like a rock band from London in the 60s and 70s. They were doing a lot of drugs.
I mean, yeah, it's and I mean, obviously, their founder or one of their founders got put in a mental hospital for doing too much acid. Like, it's not.
So I mean, and and although Darks, I mean, they do the psychedelic, they do the rock, they do, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's kind of reflective of that. When I think of them, I think more about their soundscapes than I do their words and their verbiage.
I think that's a pretty common thing.
I'm more familiar. How about this? I'm more familiar with their guitar riffs than I am with their words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like a lot of these words of the song that I didn't know until today or yesterday, like when I looked up the actual lyrics of the song. And I've obviously, like you, have been listening to the song my whole life. And
yeah, but you know what? But here's what I do like. They kind of this is rap talk though.
Tell me about it.
Listen, I'm in the high fidelity first class traveling set, and I think I need a Learjet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's rap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It would be not out of place on All About the Benjamins, like that kind of.
Right. Oh, the songs contextually with the words. I mean, but this is what I mean. Even with this song is about 2 minutes worth of singing and about 4 minutes worth of guitar playing.
Mm-hmm.
They're more of an acoustic band. That's where they draw. And I bet you their live performances are probably some of the better live performances that you'll find.
Yeah, they did shows around the time we were in high school, and I don't know. Um, Floyd fans, forgive me. I don't know whether those were like reunion shows or if they were just David Gilmour plus other guys. But they played with whole light shows and the whole deal, like laser shows and
Like listen to this. Like tell me this doesn't sound like Biggie on Juicy. New car, caviar, 4-star, daydream. Think I'll buy me a football team.
yeah, that's almost exactly the same kind of thing. I would.
Remember when I'm telling you how Biggie writes more like a pop star writes?
Right there.
There it is right there. Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis.
Yep.
When I was dead broke, man, I couldn't picture this. That's the same thing. New car, caviar, 4-star, daydream. Think I'll buy me a football team. It's the same. That's what I mean about Big in the way he writes.
Yep. I see what you're saying now. Like that's a great example. Like I think they are being satirical. Not to say that Big is not, but like I think they're being satirical and like they're making fun of the people like capitalists who are like Wall Street dudes who are like obsessed with money to the place where it's like destroying their life. I think that's the point they're making. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but
I mean, could it be now? Correct me if I'm wrong. So they're formed in '65. This is '73. How many albums? What album is Dark Side of the Moon for them?
I'll have to look. It's
like how
like third or fourth, maybe. I don't know.
Third or fourth. Yeah, let's look it up and see. Because this is what I mean is that well, if they've been around since '65, they've probably done 4 or 5 albums. I would think because back then you did.
This is actually the first one I think that they did with David Gilmour though. This is awesome. I look up Pink Floyd's discography and there's a whole bunch of albums on here, but they're not in order, which is super helpful. Here we go.
I got Pink Floyd discography in order. Okay.
Order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It was the 8th
album number 8.
Yeah. So
they were doing an album a year.
Yeah. In the 60s they did shit like that, right? I mean, this is
you want to know what
the Stones did it, the Beatles did it, like a lot of these big bands were putting out an album a year. So all of those were like Syd Barrett albums basically. With Roger Waters, and Dark Side of the Moon's the first one with David Gilmour. So they start sounding a little bit different after that.
Well, here's what I tell you. It's rare that a band hits on their 8th album. That's rare. So they probably went through some stylistic changes before it kind of like worked and took off for them. But that made me forget what I was going to say. I was just like, man. Well,
that's more than I thought. Yeah.
Well, how about this? Because I'm familiar with the other songs on Dark Side of the Moon. What other songs are on here that I was Us and Them.
Breathe is on there.
Yes, hold on. Is that how the album starts? I'm trying to pull up like the actual.
Breathe is the first real song. Like the first song is like people talking basically.
Right. Speak to Me is just the talk. Right. Yeah. Breathe, On the Run.
Eclipse is on there. The singles that came out were Money and Us and Them. Those were the only ones that were released as singles.
You know what? This makes total sense now. I mean, you want to know what had happened? They had already been through the drugs and the money and the fame, and had already crashed and burned a little.
Yeah.
While they're talking this way, it's like no. They had already been.
They're speaking from the other side now, right?
They're speaking from the other side. That might be why it's called Dark Side of the Moon. It's like this is them coming out from the other side of all the crazy. Like maybe this is when the drug use slows down a little bit enough so that they're actually conceptually making things that make more sense.
And it would make sense to be coming off of watching one of your best friends and bandmates like destroy his life with them too. Like you would be more likely to be like, hey, I'm not getting. Maybe we need to ease up on that a little bit because I don't want it to happen to me too. Great Gig in the Sky is probably my favorite one, and there's no lyrics to that one at all. I don't know if you know that song. It's basically a woman wailing. It's like a blues singer wailing. I would encourage anybody, you included, who's listening to this, who's never heard the song "The Great Gig in the Sky."
What's
to
called
listen to that. It's one of those that like raises
the great what in this?
great gig, like concert,
You did say
GIG, gig in the sky. It has, so I mean, you're a Stones fan, Give Me Shelter, right?
yes.
Like, is
Yeah.
that got that kind of singing in the background? Like,
Oh yeah. Like
right.
that it's not wouldn't classify it as gospel, but I would
No,
classify it as
it's blues-ish. I mean, it's that
it's
kind of.
about this. You want to know what I've learned to classify it as?
Hmm.
That is British UK version of soul.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not from here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like they're listening to our soul artists here and doing
Their version of it.
their version of it. Correct.
Yeah. And it's an interesting conversation, interesting thing to think about, whether it's not really stolen, really. It's just like, I hear this and I love this, so I'm going to play it. And obviously Rolling Stones can't play Ike and Tina Turner songs, so they're playing like their version of those, or their not interpretation. They're playing stuff that's inspired by it, right? Because they love it, and you're making things that are like the things that you like.
Well, let's go to Biggie again. Like Life After Death.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like it literally is the template for like New York artists, and like about 65 to 70% of the major rap albums that have came out of New York after it are based on the formula of that album.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Including some records Nas and Jay-Z have created. Like that's how heavy the influence of that runs. So yeah, that's imitation is the best form of flattery. So it's like, do you have Otis Redding and Tina Turner at your disposal? Well, no. So you make do with what you got and you do your interpretation. It's like did Dr. Dre and Chris the Glove and them have access to the park jams like the guys in New York did? Nope, but they still made the Chronic with what they had.
Right.
Just like
you take your inspiration and then you make what you can make with what you have accessible to you.
Staying with Big again, Ready to Die. Although Life After Death is the template for East Coast MCs, Ready to Die is just the Chronic / Doggy style East Coast version.
Mm.
Like literally,
that, but I mean, I know what it is, but like,
if you go listen to Ready to Die, it is put together it's very Doggy style and Chronic inspired in terms of how it's put together. The Shiznits playing in the background of the intro.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool.
The first song on Ready to Die, Things Done Changed, is taking Dr. Dre's vocals from Lil Ghetto Boy off the Chronic. Things Done Changed on this side. Remember they used to thump, but now they blast, right? That's Dre on the Chronic on Lil Ghetto Boy. So it started off with so this is what I mean. The imitation and the flattery, no, that's taking place in hip hop too, Yeah,
and this is Dark Side of the Moon. Money is a great song and it was a great single, and so is Us and Them. But it is meant to be listened to as a piece. Like the whole thing is one piece of music, and the songs, like those great hip hop albums that you're talking about, the songs flow into each other. And so and I think a lot of great albums do that, where the songs don't feel like separate pieces, but they're all like one it fits like as a larger piece of music. But Dark Side of the Moon, I think, is meant to be listened to. It's one of those headphones albums too. I hear stories about people like just laying on their back and sober too. We're not talking about like stoners. We're talking just like leaning back and with the headphones on and just like laying on the floor and listening to the thing. Like it's that kind of yeah. But as you hear in this song, like there's some more intense moments. This is one of the more upbeat songs on there. The rest of them are not the rest of them, but many of the rest of them are calmer, more serene.
Something to think about on a Sunday morning like this.
Yeah, it's a great Sunday morning album on Dark Side of the Moon. I hadn't listened to the whole thing. I played it on our Stationhead channel, I don't know, earlier this week. That would have been a long time since I'd listened to it like all the way through. And it's a beautiful piece of music, man. And we can't get out of here without saying that the part of the legend of this album is that people played along with the Wizard of Oz too. You know this, right? You know this story? You don't know the story? I don't know exactly how it works, but the original like Wizard of Oz, like the one that came out in like the 30s or whatever with Judy Garland, not Judy Garland. Is it Judy Garland? I'm embarrassing myself not knowing the names of these people. But like the original Wizard of Oz, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
If you hit play, apparently if you hit play on the album, on the same time like the lion roars the third time or whatever, like, because it's what's the studio that had the lion at the beginning at the movies?
20th Century.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, I'm showing I did not research this well enough, but if you start them at the same time, like some of the lyrics of the of the Pink Floyd album match up with what's going on the screen, and like the wailing of Great Gig in the Sky matches up with like Tornado, and what I mean, there's lots of points where it's almost like it's meant to be played along with that movie.
That is some super trippy stuff right there.
And they've never really talked, at least not that I know of, whether they did that on purpose or not. But it's that is part of the legend of the album too.
Hey, wow, that's wild.
Yeah,
I'm personally not big on the Wizard of Oz like everybody else.
I mean, it's not my favorite either, but it's just an interesting, like,
but
it's an iconic thing.
No, that is something that's like, I believe in good litmus tests. That's something that's worth like kind of like trying out one time to see if it works. Yeah, that's
just something that by people I mean white people usually do in college all the time. Like it's just one of those
insightful tidbit.
It's just one of those parts of the legend of the thing. Like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, that movie?
Yeah.
Okay. Pink Floyd partially financed that movie too. I mean, there's lots of like overlaps because I mean they were from in England, London, around in the late 60s, early 70s too. Right. Didn't have enough money to make the movies. George Harrison, the Beatle, financed Life of Brian, which was the movie that they made after that Monty Python made after.
Crazy. Only in Britain are the musicians financing the movies. That'll never happen here. Yeah.
It's just like there are things that overlap, and I like bringing things together, and I like talking about how things connect. Like that's
no. I mean that's
all these people know each other.
Right. That's what we're doing this for. Of course they know each other. They're freaking in London in 1965. You're damn right they know each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Probably some competitive fervor, I would think.
Yeah. Zeppelin partially financed that movie too, actually. So they were.
Yeah, they all know each other, right? Okay. Zeppelin, Beatles, Stones.
Yeah.
These guys, they all know each other. It's kind of like when you were what's his name, Crosby doing Janis shit, right? Mm-hmm. Right. That's crazy. See this is what I'm talking about. It's like no. Rap needs more of that. Like everybody knows each other, but everybody doesn't kind of like pitch in and get with together. Everybody like this shit. It's still it's not as clicky as it used to be, and I like that. It's not. Rap's not as clicky as it used to be. It still is, but it's not as like it used to be.
It's younger, right? Like it's been as a genre, it's younger than
this album is 50 years old. Hip hop is 50 years old.
Exactly. That's what I mean. So like they had been. I think of like the rise of modern rock and roll is the rise of Elvis / Little Richard / I mean that's like the rise. That's where you kind of time it to that Isley Brothers, whatever. Like you time it there, and then
Little Richard,
British invasion with the Beatles here and Stones.
I mean, for me and for most Black people, rock and roll starts with Little Richard. So where it started is where it starts in the minds of most Blacks. In the souls of, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a good place to stop, I think.
Hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you hit the subscribe button